Marjorie Greene wants to demonize the trans community, and she's not going to let a little thing like doctors fundamentally disagreeing with the lies she tells about gender affirming care stop her. She put out this tweet saying, "It's unimaginable that the American Academy of Pediatrics would support the genital mutilation of children, let alone fight for it. Shame on them. We must pass my Protect Children's Innocent Act." And if you call an act that, it's definitely cool and not a political ploy at all. And if it is unimaginable that the American Academy of Pediatrics would support the thing you're claiming, maybe it's that you don't understand literally anything about any of this. Have you considered that? They are, after all, trained doctors, whereas you're Marjorie Greene with all that entails. Here's why she's freaking out. Jeff Hudson, former AAP president, was talking about attempts by several states to ban gender affirming care for transgender youth this year. He pointed out that if all the states that were considering bans on that care passed them this year, an estimated nearly 60,000 transgender teens would lose access to health care, and said it's really unheard of that such a population would be denied best practice medical care. Yes, Marjorie Greene, because that is what is considered to be the best practices for this community as of right now. Now, she has this bill, this Protect Children's Innocence Act, that would ban transgender youth from accessing gender affirming care, regardless of what their parents or doctors actually think about it. Makes it more difficult for adults to access gender affirming care, which is quite a thing in the Protect Children's Innocence Act, to stop full-grown adults from making their own decisions. It would also ban medical schools from teaching about gender affirming care, so that not only are you denying access to it, it's impossible for it to even exist. All of this is very much to protect the children. Here she is, before we get into our commentary, a little bit more from Marjorie Greene on this.
Here's what we have to do. We have to draw the line in the sand and say we are not willing to cross it. This is such perversion, but it's also grooming children. It's grooming them to believe things that are lies and that are completely wrong. No, children are not born a certain way thinking they're another gender. It's their parents that are training them that way. It's these mothers that think it's like a handbag. They need to have a boy, a girl, and a trans child, like as if there's some kind of accessory.
That is exactly as dumb as what you'd expect a statement to be that's said by Marjorie Greene on Infowars. Yes, in a country that has not relented for a solid 5 minutes over the last 2 years in trying to drive the trans community at the very least into the shadows, if not over the cliff, definitely lots of adults are pushing their kids to pretend to be trans when the kid has no interest in it. It's not anything fundamental to who they are. It's just a handbag, that's what it is. And by the way, in that you saw a reference to what we were talking about earlier on the show, Brett, the co-opting of the language. She's not even pretending that grooming in this context is a sexual thing. It's literally just propaganda, that's all it is. Again, she has no problem with that, but she's misusing language purposefully to get people to hate these kids.
Listen, I will never underestimate how stupid parents can be. And I know I've met plenty of people who do have a child the way people buy a handbag. That said, that is not the only thing she's trying to outlaw. She's outlawing doctors giving adults gender affirming treatment. Now, I thought the Republican Party was about personal responsibility and personal freedoms and personal choices. That is very much not the case. Jordan Peterson says like, oh, my poor baby who had, someone said like I had a full-on transition surgery. I'm sorry if I'm not using the right term, but and I want to go back now. And Jordan Peterson is like, well, you're a victim of what? The right wing, your own personal choices to follow through on something you wanted to do. Yeah. That's not what the Republican Party should be about. And I'm tired of hearing like Marjorie Taylor Greene thinks that same-sex marriage should be illegal. She said that, she bragged about the Supreme Court's gonna overturn the gay marriage laws. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you. I'm not going to listen to you in this discussion at all because you've lost any authority to speak in a way that I would remotely begin to engage with.
Marjorie Greene found something about the shooting to be aggrieved about. Not the kids dying, she doesn't care about that. Not the adults dying, she doesn't care about that. The fact that this is the 130th mass shooting of the year, doesn't care. 13th school shooting, doesn't care, doesn't care, doesn't care, doesn't care. She did care when one of her Twitter accounts was briefly suspended, though, for spreading transphobic lies. She tweeted about this, saying, "Yesterday, my official Twitter account was temporarily suspended for warning about Antifa's Trans Day of Vengeance in front of the Supreme Court. Don't even try to follow whatever the not even train of thought of what she's saying. It makes no sense. It's conspiracy theories and disinformation and lies and hatred. This planned event is being whitewashed by global brands and the left. Meanwhile, there's still no acknowledgement of the innocent Christians that were slaughtered in Tennessee by a trans mass shooter. Suddenly, identity matters to her when it comes to the first, the 129 mass shootings that preceded Nashville this year that were perpetrated by 129 cis individuals. It was never worth mentioning, oddly enough. And no acknowledgement of the innocent Christians, which seems weird. Kind of feel like we've talked about it a little bit, kind of feel like everyone in the media has been talking about it. The difference, I guess, is that our acknowledgement of the victims is coupled with an inconvenient, impolite call for changes to be made that make it less likely to happen in the future. Because while she is cosplaying caring about those kids, very briefly dying in a tweet, she does not want to do anything to stop it from happening again. So the next time a school is shot up and kids are cut down, whether it's a public school or a Christian school, she'll be there ready to make the most of it politically for herself, but only afterward. She's got nothing for the kids who will needlessly die. So sorry about temporarily one of your accounts being taken down. By the way, as last time, they left her regular account up. They're indistinguishable. There's no difference between the two. So I'm not even like, I almost wanted to give Twitter a little bit of credit for temporarily suspending her, but they reversed it and she was still spreading the same sort of transphobic hatred on her other account anyway.